Lucky Boys Podcast.
That's good. Ready? Let's rock and roll.
Wow, that ASMR.
We're rolling?
Yeah.
Good. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Lucky Boys Podcast. I'm Will.
And I'm Norm, and we have a very special guest here today, Carve, the bouncer and owner of 12 Pel.
Yes, I'm happy to be here with you.
How would you label your barbershop?
I would say it's a community place. More so, barbershops traditionally always had that community center vibe to it.
Right.
Whether or not you call it that, like people come in and out, people shoot the shit there, people get to meet other people. So I think that creating this place for ourselves was just creating a central place where we could all get together, hang out, feel good, look good, get to meet other people.
So it's like a podcast, but just without the cameras and a mic.
Right. And uncensored, uncensored. You know what I mean? It's
we don't censor
Yeah, we
anything.
don't censor.
okay.
But I mean,
You'll fit right in.
But I mean, people can have conversations about things and not worry about it getting out there,
Getting canceled.
Yeah. I don't know,
like-
just like any sort of like banter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can complain about your girlfriend, you could be like, oh shit, I got this thing coming up, I ain't trying to do it, this and that, it's like, I feel like it's a place where people can feel free to be themselves. I think like their barber's like their priest. So it's like, I can say anything. I can share any information, and it's a super comfortable environment. So
yeah, like a personal therapist.
yeah,
Walking
having,
in the confession booth.
yeah. And you gotta pay the expensive fees.
Yeah.
No, you guys
Yeah.
you guys are doing it very differently from the traditional barbershops. And I just want to add another layer to this. Mm-hmm. He's just not a regular entrepreneur. Carve did go through the traditional financial route after college. Mm-hmm. You got your CPA.
Yeah, I passed my CPA exams. I did 2.5 years in corporate full time. Prior to that, I did have a good leg of experience in the corporate world too. All 4 years in college, I pretty much interned all in accounting firms, which in hindsight, I look back at it and think, I wish I kind of diversified my experience a little bit, but like, I don't regret any of it. I think that it was all kind of like, it all built up to this one moment where I was waiting to break out into something new, and that's how, this all happened.
And that's where I find you super interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Because most CPAs I know are accounting, there are certain type of thinking. And I do see that traditional route, the analytical, the numbers, the processing speed. Mm-hmm. But I also see the other route where it's just a chill dude, entrepreneur type, but it's just very different. And then I could see why it ties in, where I want to go with it's not the traditional Asian barbershop in Chinatown. It's one of one.
Right. And I think that we had that perception because we look and feel so different. I think that you don't really, and I was on a call a couple of days ago with a marketer, and then they had looked up our website. He did a little homework on us and was like, wow, when I first saw your pages and I saw your website and your Instagram, I felt super intimidated, Like what's a white dude like me gonna walk into the shop, like that's cool, really this cool looking shop, and like, will I fit in? I would feel really intimidated going in. But like, he clicked on a couple of videos and realized like, wow, these guys are super chill dudes, and he felt like he already got to know us before he was even in the space.
So he felt like he was going to be judged, and he may not be fit in somehow. Like, you guys will look at him like, you're not.
Well,
like
I think
culture.
You're not in our culture, or you may not dress like us.
I don't think that was the intimidation factor. I think the intimidation factor is like how we look and feel so different in the shop. Like, it looks super modern. Like, we got like the crazy lights going on. Like, there's a super modern futuristic decor. A lot of it's like, on our feed, you see a lot of inspiration from streetwear and style. Right. So,
bro, I saw you guys, I think in your grand open, you guys pulled up with the Rolls Royce.
Oh,
right? Was that? I saw something like that. Right?
Was that a music video?
No. It was post, and it was it wasn't even our Rolls Royce. So it's funny because like on Pell Street, so much activity happens all the time.
Yeah.
And the idea and why we named it 12 Pel is because we felt like this is a community place. You know, this is a place where people gather, people get to know one another. And at the time, to be honest with you, we actually really couldn't figure out a name for it. And we just felt like 12 Pel rolled off the tongue really well. But it's like, we feel like it's a place where people get together. So like everything happens on 12 Pel, whether it's music videos, creative shooting for photos. It's a very iconic street, you know, it's got real OG Chinatown feel. And
Totally.
us opening a shop there was like creating this little juxtaposition because like we were so super modern and hip, and it was like the young life that we could bring onto that street. And that's what really intrigued us about creating like, you know, creating a position there for ourselves. And I think that like that kind of image, like, you know, how forward we are, how stylish we are, how modern and like how cool it can be, you know, from somebody who's looking at it from the outside, creates a slight intimidation factor. But I think when you get to know us, or if you've ever walked into our store, you would know right away you're going to get greeted, you know, like we our number one goal is to build that real good customer service, really good rapport. I wouldn't even call it customer service. I would call it homie service, because it's like you come in here and like, yo, we're going to treat you like you're our boys.
They instantly feel welcomed. That's, I guess, part of the gang.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious as to how you saw this already.
Right.
As you know, coming from, you're looking at Excel sheets and numbers.
Right.
Trying to, you know, organize all of the, you know, find the missing zeros, you know, and you're going, you know what, I want to cut hair. How do you make that pivot?
I actually didn't. It was kind of like it was a journey that kind of shaped itself. And what I mean by that is, coming out of corporate, really had no plan, to be honest. We traveled for 6 months, had like a 6-month hiatus.
You and your friends?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me, my friend Matthew, Karen, you know, like we went out to Vegas. We were out to California, San Diego, LA, San Fran.
Oh,
like,
you guys really did it.
Yeah, we just hopped around for like a full 2 months, came back here, just chilled for another 4 months, and just like went on like small little trips in between. It was just really a break, I think. It was a mental break from routine. And
Was this after college or after?
after corporate.
Okay.
So it was like, I think we were just so burnt out from the situation of like working a 9 to 5 all the time, and we just wanted to disrupt all of that. And like just going out there and travel really opened up our eyes.
So wait, you and your two friends, Karen and
Matthew, yeah. Yeah.
quit together?
Oh no, so actually me and Matthew left around the same time. Karen, she was in a very interesting position. I'm not sure if we should discuss that. but she works in consulting, and
Okay.
she was on the bench at the time. So there was a lot of free time for her.
Oh, so she was available.
Yes. And so she came along and was like, yo, I'm down. And it didn't really matter where she worked out of, as long as she reported in. Like,
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So like the funniest story I have of her is we were at EDC, Vegas at like 5 a.m. in the morning at like one of the final sets. And then Karen goes, oh my God, I have to be on, because like we were in like West Coast time, but she had to be on East Coast time. She's like, yo, I gotta be on the computer in 2 hours. And I was like, oh snap, we're not gonna make it. And then we were just like looking at each other like, yo, all right, well, that's that.
So that was that?
Yeah, that was that.
Oh,
And
she quit.
No. I mean, like, she was just like, she just wasn't on, and she just didn't show up.
She was done.
Yeah, and
She could just blame it on the internet connection.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
won't be lying.
Oh, it's even more hilarious though that we actually got into this to this Lyft and Uber ride. I don't know, well, Lyft or Uber. We got into some car service ride, and do you guys know Ollie, the rapper, the guy who raps in the like you?
Oh, yeah,
ticketing,
I've seen him.
And he starts rapping. Yeah, so we got into his car.
Oh.
And
wow.
then he started rapping out of nowhere, and we're like, whoa, what's going on? And I think that like by the end of it, like Matthew was sitting in the front seat. He looked over and he's like, yo, this is the YouTuber. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen his videos. And then like there we were in the midst of everything. And I think that like taking that trip was a super big eye opener for us, all of us, because it made us realize like, wow, there was so much to life. And like how if you just like kind of like ride with the wind, and you're able to like let loose for a little bit, you're able to just like experience something new, and you'll never know like what you'll end up in. And I think that that was like the spark that happened for all of us. And when we came back and we were like, oh wow, like returning to what we were used to was that much harder now.
Right.
So like it was all about us going on a new journey now. So yeah, I can remember like a lot of instances on that trip.
You
That
guys must have learned so much in 6 months.
oh, absolutely. I think like
Just
especially
about life and yourself.
yeah, being exposed to like LA culture or like West Coast culture was so different because like, you know,
How so?
yeah, I think like when you grow up big city, big dreams, New York City, like everybody thinks of like what's cool and what's like, you know, very aspirational is to be like that top dog Wall Street guy in the suit, you know,
Rat race.
yeah, rat race, corporate jungle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
grind, hustle culture.
yeah,
Get them.
Yep. Like long hours, New York minute, you know, everything's so fast. And then you go to LA and it's like 180, bro. Like you go to LA and like you're sitting in the Uber for 40 minutes.
What?
Yeah, like it's a mad long trip. And it's like, it's just not to say it tests your patience, but it challenges you to slow down for a little bit.
I do know that.
Yeah.
I do know that. I have a coffee story, but similar vein.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like when you see and when you see that completely different perspective, it kind of challenges you to think like, wow, I was living one way, right? And like I felt the urge and urgency and like we built so much need that we felt like we needed, you know, like, oh, I need this job, I need this, I need that. But the biggest thing that stood out to me about LA culture and West Coast culture was creativity was actually at the pinnacle of everything, you know?
The arts.
Yeah, the arts. It was cool to be a barber. It was cool to be a musician. It was cool to be an artist. It was
Is
cool.
that so?
Yeah, I felt like it was super
Versus
dope. Like
suit and tie.
yeah,
you
you know, like you go out to like the beaches and stuff and it's like you know, the beautiful weather, like people, you know, it's like you just got so like it's a different type of energy there. And like I think that it's like you're not on the New York minute no more. You're kind of like kicking back, you're relaxing, you strike up a conversation. Like I remember going to so many different parties there and the diversity was definitely like amazing. And I love the diversity in like professions. So it's like you could go to a party and meet so many different types of people versus like you go to a party in New York City and yeah, there's a lot of different type of people, but you know, predominantly the people popping bottles at tables, like
Same types.
Yeah, same types. Or like either the corporate guys or like the businessmen and like it's the same
Wall
crowd of
Street
people.
bros.
Wall Street bros and
Yeah.
yeah. But like out in LA, yo, so different. And like I felt like a lot of that
Was it a lot less douchey?
I think two different types of douchey. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. I got you.
And I think that was super cool. So like that kind of opened up our eyes to be like, what does success mean, right?
Yeah.
And like how your environment contributes a lot to what you perceive as success.
For sure.
And so like I talk a lot about that and Asian American culture because I grew up with this perception of what success is supposed to be. And like, not to say that our parents hammered that into our heads as Asian Americans growing up, but like
They totally did.
yeah, but like, you know, there was a lot of encouragement where we would get the feedback that being a doctor, a lawyer, you know, something white collar, licensed professional was the ultimate goal, you know, and like, and if you made it, you would be the topic of conversation at family dinners, like, oh, what's you know, oh, nigga,
There's actual praise going on.
Yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of like,
And
no,
that,
the black sheep.
that translation is, you know, your son or your kid is very smart.
Yeah.
And when you say something like that in a family gathering, that means that that typically means that they're successful and they're doing well, and
And that reflects on the family.
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's a lot of like,
You bring a lot of honor.
yeah. And even within the family, there's a lot of internal flexing. You get what I mean? It's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
total.
what are they up to now? What are they doing? And it's
Why do
like,
they always flex it? Like,
I don't know. It's I think it's in our culture.
Yes, the
Seriously.
culture. Yeah.
but they go hard. The immigrant parents, like
Yeah.
they go hard. Like, come over, let me show off my new TV. Look at my
Yeah.
son's trophy. Look
Yeah.
at, like, they go
Yeah,
hard,
and
man.
in the
It's
opposite
embarrassing.
direction, and even in the opposite direction, they'll be like, "How's your son?" It's like, and if they're not like that typical, you know, doctor or lawyer or whatever, they'll say, "What son? What daughter?"
I'm dead.
Damn.
I mean, that's extreme.
That's intense,
Yeah, that's intense. But I've seen it happen. So.
Damn, you okay, Norm?
Oh no, I'm good. I'm not talking about myself. I'm not talking about myself.
Yeah, I'm playing, man.
Yeah. I mean, I did see those challenges with a lot of my friends, you know, especially even my guys in my team. I think it took a lot of convincing for their parents to understand what we were doing.
Yeah.
Even with like our first barber, Tim, right? I actually sat down, had dim sum with his parents, his whole family, to tell them about the project.
Oh, wow.
And I think that it was like, I offer that because I understood how like Chinese culture works. You know what I mean? It's like for his parents to accept and be like, yeah, I'm going to let Tim follow you on this journey. I had to kind of convince her a little bit. And like, first it was me paying my respects to them and saying like, hey, listen, like your son's going to be cool. Like, it's like, this is the plan. You can trust me. I did pull my strings and say, yeah, I used to be an accountant. You know, it's like,
I'm not just, some loser guy. Like,
yeah. And it's crazy because it's like, they respect it, you know what I mean? And it's like, so I never really regret it, but it's like, I think it's just understanding how the culture works, you know?
I don't think part of the people listening understand how challenging passing the CPA exam is. And I was talking to you, you were downplaying it too a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I've watched people study for it and stress over it and fail certain parts.
Right.
And just, it's a full-time job studying for that exam, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, I was able to accomplish the feat during busy season, so I was extremely lucky given my time constraints.
Some people sometimes, what they'll do is they'll block off time, like they'll quit their job just so they could focus on it or work part-time.
Yeah.
You were full-time.
Oh, Asians don't believe in that. Come on. Right? Like,
yeah,
I
that's
think
insane.
I think it's always been in our blood to push and work hard, even if it's past the normal working hours, right? I always describe that as like the Chinatown heart and soul, you know what I mean? Like even though we may or may not know something, and I think I see that a lot with our our predecessors, like the past generations, like the OGs in Chinatown, but they'll put in the extra hours to work even if they don't got it completely figured out, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So it's that tenacity, that hard work that pushes us through, and it's like that's what we grow up seeing our parents do. So like for us to say like, hey, we need a break to take the exam, like even my mom would be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What are you thinking?
We don't shy away from the hustle, and if we do show a little bit of weakness, the parents will step in a little bit, like, hey, no, you got a lot more left in the tank.
Right.
And like our drill sergeants.
Yeah. And I
that
think
gives hugs, sort of.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that like as that's them loving us, you know, and the way that they know how, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like that level of encouragement to continually pushing us to know that there's a little bit of fuel left, you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely pushed myself to the limit during that point. It was like I remember working in an office till late, till maybe 11, and telling myself like I ain't gonna go home.
Damn,
until
bro, you crazy. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the office, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Damn.
I mean, it was convenient too. So like whatever.
And you're staring at a computer screen. It's so mundane and boring.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the only time you're talking to someone else is when you guys are trying to figure out certain things, right?
Yeah.
That's so. I'm sorry. For me, I find that agonizing.
Yes and no. I'm not gonna lie. I think that my personality inherently always brought fun into whatever work I did. So whether
fun and accounting, that's like an oxymoron.
Yeah, whether it was for the right reasons or not, like I would be a clown. I would be the goofball.
That's
I
real
was
cool.
like through my accounting career. I remember like at one of my past firms, HR awarded me like the class intern clown. You know what I mean? So it's like I just found ways to bring fun into the workplace, whether or not everybody would have accepted it. But I think that it was just me finding ways to make it enjoyable. You know what I mean? If you got to do it, you got to make a little fun out of it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. But sometimes it's, wow. I mean, I think that takes a special personality to do that, because it's hard not to be miserable in that scene, especially in that type of corporate culture. I'm sure you're aware it's, some of it can be unfriendly.
Just corporate culture is cutthroat. I think it's very, it is very black and white in some sense. Very bottom line oriented. Not a lot of the energy goes outside of the box thinking, you know what I mean? And I think that recognizing all of those things was what kind of made me retract the further I got into it.
And now that's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Is there some sense of like, maybe I shouldn't have got my CPA? I wasted a lot of time going that route. And it's also pretty lucrative.
Yeah.
That's automatic 6 figures. Right?
Yeah, I guess depending on what you do and how you want to take it, you could really, like, I mean, with I mean, if you continue doing it, there's definitely like a fruitful road ahead. I just think that the biggest thing that occurred to me in my reflection was like I really narrowed it down. You know, I really looked at the pros and cons of the situation and what it meant to have life. You know what I mean? And I looked
Even
at,
if it meant less money.
yeah, of course, absolutely. Because you got to really look at the pros and cons of the situation to really make decisions, right? I tell anybody that enters my space or ever has a question of like, oh, should I switch? Should I do this and that? List it out, write it out on a notepad. You know, what are the pros if I do this? What are the cons if I do this?
It's very analytical.
Yeah,
right
like
there.
just write it
That's
down.
the
Look
accounting
at
part.
Yeah, look at it, big picture, and then you'll see your whole list. Because people sometimes try to just make decisions in their head, and like it's not going to be as clear of a decision as if you write it down. So like I've had situations where people came in, the wannabe barbers, they're young guys, and they're not sure yet. And I go, yo, go home and write a list down, and then come back to me with your decision. You know, I can give you my 2 cents. You can ask me all the questions you want as you're coming up with this list, but make this decision for yourself, not for anybody else. And so like I think when I challenge myself to make that decision, like, yo, I listed everything out, you know, continuing career here or like doing something else, or like if this career was, you know, if I was going to go another year, 2 years, go into a startup and do it, or go somewhere else and do it, go maybe in a marketing firm, maybe that could change the environment and do it. And you got to just look at all the cards you have, you know what I mean? And I think what really did it for me was staying in that career only meant one thing, and that was money. And number one, I felt like I exhausted my professional growth. I exhausted my personal
In
growth.
2 years. Wow.
Well, 2.5 years full time, and then 4 years of like interning and like
Most people
yeah.
don't get that lesson or feel that way until they reach their 50s in their professional career, maybe 60s, when they're nearing retirement.
Right. And I can see that, and I see that with individuals that come into our shop, and that's the same advice I give them. You got to go home and reflect.
Even at 50.
Yeah, I reflect every day. I reflect on conversations that I had 2 days ago.
So it's never too late.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to keep your mind running. You know what I mean? You only choose to accept reality when you yourself give up on continuing to think about, like, you know, continuing to work your mind to think about different ways to go about it. You know, I think that I never accept the path that's given to me, because I always think about different ways to go about it. You know, like if I'm not doing this, what could I do? If we're not doing this, how can we improve it? You know? So I think that when I, like, going back to what I was saying earlier, I kind of like narrowed it down. You know, personal growth was getting capped out. Professional growth was getting capped out. Professional networking was getting capped out. I was going to happy hours, meeting the same group of people. You know, I looked at my Rolodex. It was a bunch of accountants and finance people. Where did I get my energy from? Where did I get my passion from? That was getting tapped out. You know, when I first got into the full-time job, I was super excited, not gonna front. Like I went to these like trainings and like listened to these like speakers talk, and like, yeah, there was this fast track partner. I actually ended up networking with him, heard his story, and like, you know, I felt like I was exhausting all that I was getting out of that place. And so at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, even if I translated and went to a marketing firm, I would exhaust that very soon too. If I translated and, like, you know, doing accounting anywhere else, like, though, like, none of that growth would have been exponential. So really throwing myself into the jungle by saying like, hey, I'm really, like, if I give up money, which was the only pro at the time, if I just give that up and take a step back and reset, what's the worst that could happen? And I realized there was no worst that could happen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that
that's brave. That's easier said than done. It's hard to walk away from money.
Security.
Yeah, because it gives you freedom and options. But at the same time, it's interesting because money can also take away your freedom and options in this case.
Right. And I think that that's like a big lesson learned for myself, and I try to give that wisdom to everybody that I meet. Right. I understand that money is, you know, financial responsibility, you know, whether it's to your family or to yourself. And like, that's important to have as a priority. But when you don't necessarily need to have it as your priority, don't make it so that it is, because therefore you really limit yourself from really achieving your full potential anywhere else. Because people that are tied to their salaries, right? Like, I have friends that make a good amount of money, you know, like they're pretty comfortable at their corporate jobs, making like, 180, maybe 200, something nice and comfortable. And, I look at that and I'm like, do you really need that much? And like the exercise that I ran for myself, actually, when I decided, before I even decided that I was going to do like be an entrepreneur and open up my own shop and do something like that, I actually made the decision that I wanted to do marketing. I wanted to do something completely different. And I was down to even take like 20 grand a year,
Wow.
like something as low as that, because I looked at it and I was like, how much money do I really need in life? And I looked at all my bills, right? And I looked at all my expenses for the last 6 months of my life. And a lot of it was spent on things that I didn't need. Like, I was spending a lot of money eating out. I was spending a lot of money buying clothes, buying this and that. And then I started looking at what are the things that are really a necessity. And if I just held that back for like a couple of months, just so that I could gain more growth for myself, why not? You know what I mean?
So if you scaled back and practiced minimalism,
Yeah.
you figured, you know what, I could get a lot more back spiritually.
Yeah. Well, not even spiritually. Even I think the idea is investing yourself, right? Because with newfound perspective and newfound skills and newfound opportunities, who knows where your growth could be? It could be 10x. It could be 100x. But if you don't take that step to get uncomfortable, really throw yourself into the water, then you're not going to get that experience.
So it's really about reallocating where your focus is.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's time or money.
What gave you the idea to open a barbershop? And this type of barbershop?
Yeah. So, it's funny? It's like when I passed by that spot, I actually had no idea what to do with it. But I knew that we wanted something here in Chinatown. I think at the time, a lot of our friends were opening businesses, and that served as great inspiration for us, So seeing like the 10 Below guys open, seeing like my boy at Igloo open, there was like Taiyaki, there was like Milk and Cream. It was a lot of dessert stores at the time, but like that was like the Asian desserts,
yeah.
It was like all popping off at the same time.
And the margins are fantastic on that. So how can you not get in that business?
Right? Yeah, it's crazy. So it's like looking at that and seeing all these guys kill it was super inspirational. And I think at the time we wanted to do something, we just didn't know what. And the first instinct was like, yo, the bubble tea space. You know what I mean? And we spent a little bit of money on like bubble tea equipment and machines.
Oh.
And I reflected one day and I thought about it. And I was like, if I did bubble tea, would I really be happy with what I'm doing 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Would I get the personal, professional growth that I wanted? Would I get the networking that I wanted? Would I be able to grow and get the income that I wanted?
How much could you scale it?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I started thinking about it and I realized like, shit, like it is, there was an opportunity to kind of come into the industry because there wasn't that much competition at the time. There was your Kung Fu Tea, there was your Gong Cha, and there was boba guys. Mm-hmm. And the angle that boba guys was taking was awesome,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we just wanted to create a very similar variation to that, and I felt like there was still room in the market for that. But I think ultimately me realizing that it didn't hit the marker that I wanted for all those things, personal growth, professional growth, maybe how I could scale this business. And if I see myself in the industry in the next couple of years, me realizing that I wasn't going to get as much as I wanted out of it made me think differently. And I realized, hey, maybe if not that, then what? And at the time we were just like slinging shoes, like reselling kicks. Me and my boy Matthew were just like selling kicks, like, just through Flight Club, Stadium Goods.
Oh, so you guys were just flipping?
Yeah, just flipping sneakers, like buying and selling it, your average reseller, scaling it up, using computer programs at the time.
Oh, bots?
Yeah.
Assholes.
Yeah.
High frequency trading right here.
Yeah. We were the fat nerds behind the computer.
The other reason why I had to buy my Jordans for $300.
Oh, God.
And my Yeezys. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, we were part of that scene, and it was fun. It was it really like showed us like what it was like to make money fast. You know what I mean? Fast money. Mm-hmm. So like I've seen that before. Saturday morning in my underwear. Yeah, you're getting all these Yeezys. It's like it's lit. It's lit. And it was really good at the time. Super lucrative. But then like I think that
What you guys will make like 200-300% profit on it?
oh, it really depends. I think it really depends on the shoe, the trend. Honestly, sometimes you would lose a lot of money. With sneaker botting, stuff like that. It's like you take a huge risk. Not a lot of people know that. A lot of people hear about the upside stories, but there is a lot of downside stories. I mean, there's moments in my career in sneaker botting where I spent all the money on the resources and didn't get any pairs.
What?
Yeah. It's like you mess up one little step in your setup, and it can screw you. Yeah, so it's like there was a big risk to it, and there was a lot of it's a high anxiety environment where you're spending a lot of money hoping to get a return. People don't see that. People see the glory. People be like, "Yo,
Yeah, that's what I see. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, because all my friends that are sneakerheads that are resellers, they number one, they got the freshest kicks and all the Supreme stuff, and then they seem to like not worry about money as often because they know that the next drop is coming and they're going to be able to handle it.
You know what's
But
crazy?
they don't tell me about the L's that they take.
I'm not even gonna lie. I really started to dislike that mindset that I had that I was building because of the resale game, where what you just mentioned right now was not worrying about money because it was so easy to print it. So
Right.
it was like you weren't really working for it, if that makes sense. It's like I felt like the fact that we would cover and and make excuses for not performing or like not doing certain things was because we could get money. You know what I mean? And I think that that mentality started to turn me off when I was reflecting about it. So like to give you a really good example about that, it's like, oh, let's just say we messed up somewhere on building this one thing, or like we're doing something. Actually, how would I give you an implied example? But like essentially, like let's say we messed up and we it costed us like $5,000. We're like, whatever. There's next week. We'll make the money back. You know, like let's just say and it would get us lazy too. You're like, oh, you know, you could do this for money, but like, yeah, why do that for money when I can sell sneakers? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
The motivation was not what you were. You want to be a creator. You want to create something versus you just flipping shoes just to create an extra buck.
Well, at the time, it wasn't as immediately apparent that that's what I wanted. But I think it was more like the idea that money was so readily and easily achievable that you start to care less about things. You forget about the idea of working hard to make money.
It doesn't seem real anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And you use it as excuse to cover for certain like places where you fall short.
It builds bad habits.
Yeah. So like exactly. I think that it was building a mindset for myself that I felt like I wasn't proud of. You know what I mean? Like I could just be like, oh yeah, you know what? Forget that. Like, why would I do that when I could do this? And it wasn't really opening up myself to all this different type of learning, you know? Because I really strongly believe that it's not the money that you make at the end of the day, right? It's the journey and how you get there that really makes it all worth it. You know,
So you're
what I mean?
in it for the story.
Well, I'm in it for the experience.
Yeah.
I'm in it for my own memories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I go from 0 to 100 the next day, like what fun was that?
So money's not the ultimate goal for you. It doesn't move you.
Yeah,
It doesn't dictate your decision making.
Yes, I think after I realized that, it changed the whole game for me. Like now,
Now your sneaker days, what was that? Was that after the corporate gig?
yeah, it was after the corporate gig. That's when we started to really focus on it. Yeah, and I think
On
that
a good weekend, how much can you make? Like on a Yeezy drop or something exclusive?
it really depends. It's a gamble. So like sometimes it's like
On a good weekend, everything goes right.
a good weekend, you could get like 300-400 pairs.
Damn.
Yeah, 300-400 pairs easy. And like I remember one release, it was like the first 12 minutes and we already hit like 500 pairs. And then like, yo, we were stressed out because here's the thing.
Are you worried about selling 500? Well, if they're like exclusives. And
Yeah. I don't think that you do. Yeah, I was worried, of course. I mean, at the time, it's a high anxiety environment. Like you run the programs and then let's just say it goes from 0 to 100. You're like, holy crap, how am I going to pay for all this?
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, that's-
And am I going to sell it all before I have to pay the credit card bill? And you got to worry about a lot of different things. And I think that yeah, I mean, there's just so much movement because like you can't really gauge how much you're gonna make either because let's just say a supply is so plentiful, right? You could actually end up with a brick. So basically, let's just say we don't work at Nike, we don't work at Adidas. I don't know what their stock numbers are, but like I know that I'm gonna run this program. I'm gonna buy a ton of shoes. But like I remember,
if they made enough for everybody, basically you're screwed.
We're screwed. We're screwed. And I remember there was one release where we ran up like 500 pairs in 12 minutes, and then we stopped the programs right away. We literally went on, stopped all the programs, and we were like, holy shit! And we looked at all our credit cards charges, like fucking like 20 charges plus per credit card, and we're like, geez, like yo, did we fuck up? And then thinking about that, and then like the release happened and there was still demand and we were good, but like we didn't know.
You guys must have been high-fiving like crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a rush.
but we didn't know until afterwards. But then you got to understand that the industry's gotten more competitive now, so
More people are figuring it out.
yeah, more people are figuring it out. There's only a select few people that still do it like that. My friend still does it on every single release. I mean, the money is good. The money's still there.
So one weekend they
It's
can
fast
make
money.
as much as a recent college grad makes in a year.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like his all-time high.
And I'm pretty sure that he could probably do that at least. He could repeat that performance a couple of times a year at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Multiple times.
So
I mean, like,
if you look at his annual salary, it beats some of these engineers.
oh, absolutely. There's engineers that are doing this now.
Yeah.
There's people that I know a lot of. I actually know a lot of Wall Street guys that got into this that have left their jobs doing this. Yeah. So
See,
like
they don't teach this shit in school, man.
It's like option trading, but with sneakers.
I would say it's less of a gamble.
Oh, wow.
more
Yeah, so
guaranteed. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Because once you get the product right, like here's the thing, it could become a brick, right? But you could always get close to what you paid for it. There's a really good chance that you can. So there's not a lot of downside. There's way more upside than there is downside. It's honestly, it's a pretty secure play. So I think that
Not now though,
no,
because
well,
it's very saturated.
now it's still a very secure play. It's just a lot more competitive. You know, there's a lot more people in this market. There's a lot more people playing it.
Now, when you say that, does that mean that it's harder? And does that also mean that you're still making money, but you're making less?
both,
Okay.
depending on how you do things, because now there's new ways of doing things. Actually, I just recently hopped back into resale. So like, it's part of our new plan.
That's what I'm saying. I was
It's-
like,
it's-
yo,
it's
there's so
part of-
much money in it. How can you walk away?
Yeah,
It's alluring.
you know, things have. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, things have gotten rough for us. So it's kind of like resorting to going back to old ways. You know.
Wait, let's go back. So how did you start the barbershop? And then we'll continue with the...
But talk about
sure.
the journey because it
Yeah.
sounds like it took steps before you arrived
Right.
where you are now.
We entered that space doing retail. That was kind of like the focus at the time. We wanted to see if we can help generate a DTC relationship to our customers. So at the time we were selling mostly with like Flight Club, Stadium Goods, Goat, StockX, you know, wherever we could sell. One of the secondary platforms where all the reselling happens. And all these platforms, you got to pay a fee, right? Anywhere from 8 to 20%. And at the time, you know, we had enough product to sell and there was enough demand from the people that we knew. It just kind of was like an obvious answer to us to be like, hey, why don't we just try to sell it to these people directly, make a better margin, and they could save some money, right? Because let's just say I sell a pair of shoes for $100. If I sell it through Flight Club, they take, or Stadium Goods, they take like 20%, right? Well, the rates are a little different now, but let's just say, for example, they take 20%. And I would get 80 back, and Flight Club would take the 20, and the customer would pay the 100, right? So, for example, it was very obvious to us that, like, hey, why don't we sell it for 90, right? We make a little bit more, then the customer gets it for less. So it's kind of like a very obvious, you know, scenario. So we're like, oh, cool. All right, we'll just keep doing our thing. We'll keep buy shoes, and then we'll sell it through 12 Pel. And we curated like the experience to, you know, if you've seen our shop, it's a super tiny shop, but we wanted to not have like a full inventory of items the way that Flight Club or Stadium Goods has. And for us, it was more so telling the story behind every collection, because I think that would have been cooler. You know, we were looking at new ways to do the same thing that they were doing, to be honest. And so we curated collections and told the story behind it. You know, like, here's the Yeezy collection. Here's all the Yeezys that we have from every single Yeezy released from Nike to Adidas. And we had them all up for display, so you could see it, look at it, touch it, hear the story behind it.
There's some security there?
No security at the time.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
you guys are crazy.
Yeah, we were crazy. But I mean, we only had one side of the shoe there.
Oh, okay.
So you got to be pretty crazy to try to get something from us. So yeah, and it was like, we wanted to create that retail experience. And at the time we were thinking, hey, we'll throw one chair in the back just to make the retail store different, you know? And so that's when I found Tim. And I was like, yo, Tim, we got this great idea. Let's do this. Like, I need one barber. And he was like, yeah, I'm game. I had done some with his parents, got that seal of approval from them. I think it was a day before we were set to go to barber school. Oh, and I say we because originally it was supposed to be just Tim going to barber
Wait,
school.
so none of you guys knew how to cut hair prior to having the idea?
No, Tim did. But
I was like, Tim must be nice with the clippers for you to just want to, collect that talent.
Well, he was cutting a lot of like the homies out in Brooklyn, and
Out of his own like shop, his basement. Oh, basement.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, it wasn't really anything serious. I think that he was just doing it for fun. He was out of college and he didn't really know what else to do, but like, he had a pair of clippers and his homies, people just kept asking him to get haircuts, and then soon what started for fun became a whole clientele list. And then it was out of his basement. So like, I felt like, maybe we could take this up one level, put it into a retail store, and like people could enjoy that experience, come in, see some kicks, get a haircut, shoot the shit, and then, go on their day. And it's Chinatown. So I was like, it was a hot destination at the time, and so it just made sense. And then like the day before Tim was going to go to barber school, he actually hit me up and he was like, yo, Carho, I actually don't know about this. He's like, yo, I kind of don't want to come out. He was supposed to meet up with me to kind of like finalize like that. Yeah, he was going to go do it.
Whoa, so last minute
he was trying to pull out. And I was like, what? I was like, no, that's crazy. And I was like, yo, I don't care, bro. I was like, yo, listen, just come out, And he's like, all right, fine. So he drove out. He sat at my crib and we talked about it. And I was like, but then I was still kind of uneasy by that because I felt like, wow, what happens if we open and then he just decides at that point he doesn't want to do it anymore? And then,
wait, is he a partner at this point, or he was just going to be a barber?
I mean, we're all stakeholders.
Okay.
And at the time he wanted to, he just wasn't sure. It had nothing to do with like ownership or anything like that.
Okay.
He just wasn't sure if barbering was going to be his career that he wanted to continue to pursue.
Okay.
And so like that uncertainty kind of got me woke, and I was thinking like, oh snap, like we can't have an empty chair if we do open. Or like, let's say he opens, he tries it for 3 months, he realizes he doesn't like it, and then now it's an empty chair. Right. So I was like, you
wanted to make sure he was reliable.
Yeah. And then so like, what? I was like, I'll go to barber school myself. So I actually went to barber school with him to show him how committed I was about this idea. And I actually went to go learn the ropes myself.
Ooh, like a true leader.
Wow.
And then, I mean, like, I think I do believe in a lot of like learning from the ground up. Yeah. I do believe by learning by doing. I think that's the best way. So I got in there, I got my hands dirty. Like, we were building the store at the same time, and I was going to barber school. So like I would go into the shop at 7:00, like, check out what the contractors did, then go straight to the barber school. Go to school for like 4 or 5 hours and then come back and then check on the contractors. And it was a busy day back then. But being at barber school really opened my eyes on that industry because I took a lot of that time to learn. I spoke to every single student that was in there. I spoke to all the OG barbers that were finally getting their license. And like, whether it's to open their own store or to take it to the next level or to bring an apprentice in or this and that, like everybody had a different motive for going to barber school. But the one common denominator.
I didn't even know they had a barber school.
Oh yeah. I mean,
you had to be a professional, certified professional, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You have to be state licensed. And there's 2 ways you can go about it. And number 1 is being an apprentice. And we have an apprenticeship at 12 Hell. Or it's being licensed through the state schools. So like there are schools that the state board approves to help one get a get a barber license.
Get certified.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do that?
Well, you get the course done there, and then you take a state exam.
How long is that process?
It's about 6 months.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. And I think that the industry, I saw a lot of flaws there. I saw a lot of challenges there. And that's what opened up my mind to do something there, because not a lot of people have thought outside the box in that space. So number one, I identified a lot of people that were at the barber school at the time only wanted to be there because because they didn't want to do a desk job. So it's not that they were truly passionate about barbering. It's just like, why like I would ask a lot of students like, oh, why do you want to do this? And I don't want to work retail, or like, oh, I don't want to work a desk job. That's not for me. And then so they're at barber school. I was like, do you want to be a barber? And like, like it's better than that. So at the time, I felt like there wasn't a lot of sexy talent either, because not a lot of people were super passionate about it in that space.
Yeah.
And so like I recognized immediately, that should anybody come into this space and was really passionate about doing something disruptive there's a really good chance. So then that's when our concept started to evolve from 1 chair to 2 chairs. And I was like, oh wait, let's make it a 2-chair space. Then in the middle barber school, I was like, you know what? We have to make this a 3-chair space.
It's such a spontaneous way you guys came about. I love it.
Yeah, I think that being an entrepreneur, the best lesson that I've learned over the last 3 years is really recognizing your opportunities, and then being able to move with them.
Ooh, that's powerful. Recognize your opportunities and being able to move with them. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, so like that's how we ended up with the 3-chair space, a little bit of retail.
So right now you guys have 3 chairs.
Right now we actually have 5. So we moved it up to 5 because post
Demand was there pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID. Well, no. So we actually did that post-COVID.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did that post-COVID, even though there was less business, but we wanted to create more space so that like if, we wanted to create a degree of separation, you could. And that like, somebody could take the last chair and the middle chair and the first chair. And then we had dividers up and everything like that. So it was just like being able to create more space. And post-COVID, we weren't using the retail as a pop-up space anymore. Oh yeah, by the way, we forgot to mention like pre-COVID, we were a pop-up event space. We love to share the space for other creatives. We charge almost like nothing, like $75 an hour, no minimum time requirement. So if you want to come in for 1 hour, you can come in for 1 hour. I think a big part of that was we recognized trying to be creatives ourselves when we weren't. Like, our background was accounting and like a lot of the finances and things like that. But like not having the in the creative scene with, whether it's a videographer, photographer, architect, designer, this and that, right? Like we had none of those connects. So trying to build those connects was so hard that we were like, you know what? We want to be able to help any other person who has a dream behind their desk. And so that's why we made like the front like a pop-up space where anybody could come in, rent an hour, try out their concept, whether it's a clothing brand, whether or not they have some art done. We've had like an engagement scavenger hunt, like whatever your ideas are, like the whole idea is that we wanted to come and support it because we realized how hard it was for ourselves.
That's great.
So we opened up that as like a public pop-up space. But post-COVID, we were like, oh snap, we really.
So you guys bought that? You guys own 12 Pal? Like,
oh no, we didn't.
Oh, you guys are leasing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then like we just had events that like ran in and out of our space.
Got it.
Yeah.
You guys are finding some success. You said you had some news outlets and major publications reach out to you. Like, what you say? One was Yahoo Finance, and what were the others? Vice.
We did a little thing with Vice pre-lockdown. So it was literally a week before lockdown, and it was the topic was like xenophobia and how it was affecting Chinatown, how it was affecting business. And then lucky enough, we caught attention with Yahoo, and they did a little piece about us about how Chinatown was like being resilient through the pandemic. And at the time, hope and everything was kind of like very like limited, like even I myself, we thought about folding at some points.
You did?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, wow.
We did, because simply like you just didn't know when the light was at the end of the tunnel. COVID was so new, right? It was definitely pretty scary. It was scary.
Very
like,
scary.
You never see Chinatown shut down ever.
And it didn't seem like the system wasn't designed to deal with this and support businesses at the same time.
Right. And like seeing everything shut down in Chinatown was definitely the scariest part. And so seeing that type of response from our community and how people were afraid really made us worry about the comeback, and made all the guys in the space worry about the comeback. And we were like, holy shit, like this might be it, you know, like
Party's over.
yeah, party's over. Like right before this, we were on our high horses. We were throwing actual parties, you know, like we throw yeah, we throw about like 4 parties a year.
I heard about those barbecues that you did right outside.
Yeah. I mean,
Talk about building community.
Yeah, we're kind of crazy, you know. Like, I think we're the type that's willing to try it, and then when someone's here to shut us down, oh shoot, I'm so sorry.
I didn't know. I swear.
Let me just pack up my stuff and get out of here.
Did you guys ever get shut down?
No, never. I think
Because I know a lot of other, you know, where they grill outside and you know have a party.
I think we had a couple barbecues actually, but we had one barbecue. The most recent one was July 4th. At that time, we actually threw a activation for that. So we said, this all super spontaneous, by the way. So like, this was like a week and a half, 2 weeks after reopening. And let's see, reopening was like June 22nd, around that time. So that first week out, we were super busy, super booked out. It was like the craziest week we ever saw. You know, like we had people coming in looking like chia pets.
Shaggy.
Yeah. We was fixing everybody up. And then the next week after that was nuts. It was straight empty. And we were like, oh shit, like this is
Wow,
it.
so you got like a pump fake.
Yeah. And then we were like, yo, this is nuts. And then it wasn't only us, by the way. It was every other salon and barbershop on the block. And just so the listeners have an idea, like Pell Street's like Barber's Row. It's all the barbershops, all the salons, and it's been there since like the 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? Like it's just historically a place for grooming, you know, and beauty. So we realized it was getting crazy. It was an issue. It was going to be an issue because we saw it wasn't only us, it was everybody else. You saw the salon stylist and the barber standing outside waiting for clients now.
That's the worst.
It was straight empty. The street was straight empty. Literally, you would look down the street, peek your head out, crickets, and you would see the other barbers and salon stylists just sitting outside.
Yeah.
And it was very disheartening. And I think that we went about a week realizing that. And then July 4th was coming up, and we realized, like, crap, that's crazy. And at that time during July, it's not like the city was dead, though. Like, I would bike around different neighborhoods. I would take my city bike around different neighborhoods. West Village was popping. Tribeca by the West Side Highways was popping. It was like, not to say like back to normal, but people were out, you know?
Dude, I mean, yeah, it's summertime's definitely, there's a lot of foot traffic.
Right.
And I mean, we're in the wintertime now and it's freezing. And we went out yesterday and it was popping, man. So many people. I'm like, what, you know, everything you see in the news about New York dying, I'm just looking around like, yo, people are drinking outside, having a good time, mingling, talking.
Yeah. I mean, at that time, it was busy in every other neighborhood but Chinatown.
That's true, yeah.
And I remember getting groceries sometimes at like the Whole Foods in Tribeca or like the Target, and then bringing in Chinatown. It's like you would pass like maybe Broadway or Canal Street, and then it would be dead. And then you like pass that border, and then it would be like families are out, everybody's running around. And like going back into central Chinatown was like a ghost town. And at that time we were just like, wow, this sucks so bad. And I could just see it on everybody else's faces on the block, how down they were, you know, and how worried they were, right? I'm sure these guys like on the block, you know, I don't think that any of them were ever prepared for this situation. And being the fact that their prices were that low, I knew that it was going to be a problem for them, you know? So we came up with the idea to throw a barbecue because we just wanted to boost the morale of all our neighbors. So we wanted to just like, hey, let's go buy all this stuff, throw a barbecue and give it out for free.
So this was a barbecue for the community.
Yeah.
Not like to bring in customers, but just for, you know,
for the community.
To boost morale.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you say that because all you guys are in the same field.
Yeah.
Yet it doesn't sound like there's like some type of competitiveness where you guys are kind of hating on each other.
Nah, absolutely not. I think that was actually one of our worries going into this like space, this industry, that like the other people would perceive us and be like, oh crap, these guys are gonna try to come in here and do this and that. But it was actually complete opposite.
It was all love. They
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
like, oh, you're trying to be all different.
Well, maybe that's what I mean. I don't know what they said behind doors, but like I think for the most part, yeah, it was very supportive. Like a lot
That's
of
beautiful.
a lot of the OGs in the block came over and said like, oh wow, this is so dope. You know, like this is so inspiring to see that you guys are doing this. I think they themselves saw like the young talent come in, and it was like them looking at themselves, you know, when they were doing this.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that was super supportive.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, funny enough, we actually threw a barbecue at that time too as an icebreaker, and it went really well. So that's why when we wanted to throw the second barbecue around, when things were like, kind of like, it wasn't a good situation at the time. Throwing the barbecue just made the most sense to bring everybody's morale up. We got like a DJ to come in. Shout out to DJ Kevin Lim for pulling through. Yeah. And like we teamed up with Wilson from Namwa. And we had like
Hey, we had him on.
Yeah, we had him on.
Well, it's gonna release, but this week. But yeah, it was
Cool dude, yeah.
Nice.
Great guy.
Yeah. So like we teamed up, we threw something on the block. He let us use the kitchen. We posted right in front of his spot. And the funny
you guys are neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funnier thing was, last minute we just decided, why don't we shoot a video? Our schedules are empty. It's whatever. Giving out complimentary haircuts wasn't like foreign to us before because we've done it a ton of times in the past, right? And we were like, you know what? Anybody who spends $45 in Chinatown on July 4th will get a free haircut on us. And we shot this like video in like literally 15 minutes, and we chopped it up. We put it onto Instagram, and it's nuts because we woke up the next morning. We posted at 11 p.m. mind you, and so we just posted it and passed out. And then the next morning we woke up and it was like 1,000 shares, and we're like, what the hell is going on?
Oh,
It was going
IG?
viral?
Yeah, and it was like
yeah.
we were getting tagged. People
Yo,
were
I
getting
love
followed.
your energy, man.
And
That's
I was
real
like,
cool.
yeah,
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
like unexpected because like we just wanted to put it out there because I think it wasn't recognizing only that it was slow for barbershops and salons, but it was recognizing it was slow for the restaurants, the bakeries, everything else, like when we would go pick up lunch, like we would see that it was straight empty, inside. And then that was when restaurants were allowed to reopen for takeout, but like there just wasn't people waiting for food, there wasn't a lot of deliveries at the time, and it was just super bummed out. So we were like, let's do something that brings some awareness.
Yeah.
And like obviously we're lucky enough to be in tune with tech and social media that like we could put out an Instagram post, right? But I felt like that was what a lot of businesses didn't have access to, So like the fact that we did that, a lot of the people that shared it, we got a lot of people who came in who actually came through, spent $45, got a complimentary cut. The whole shit snowballed.
Would you ask for like a receipt?
Yeah, we did. We said like, show us a receipt. Just take
I need a
picture.
record of it.
Yeah, of course. You got to show that you spent some money in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And it snowballed, and that whole thing snowballed into a feature in the Chinese newspaper. So shout out to Anna for putting us on because she saw what we did.
From what? Which newspaper?
It was
it Singdao?
no, it was the World Journal.
Oh, World Journal. Okay.
Yeah. So then
Your parents must have been like super proud when
yeah,
they saw you.
Yo, dude, that was ultimate like affirmation that like, like, oh wow, like this was because to be Chinese is like, you're doctor, lawyer, or you make it in the Chinese newspaper.
Yep.
Like
That's what Wilson said too.
yeah. Forget Forbes.
Forget New York Times.
Yeah, forget New York Times. They don't care about New York Times.
Because the relatives and everyone's reading that, they see, like, oh
Right.
wait, that's my nephew.
Right.
That's my, my cousin.
Yeah. So it was super sweet. That happened. It brought in two grandpas that came in. And both of them said like they saw the cover, they saw the story, they wanted to come in and see what we were about, experience it, and that was super cool. So it just kept like bringing in new and good energy, and it just kept the ball rolling for us. And then eventually we got more and more features. We came out with another story that talked about what we did and how we were doing things during this time, and like our little bit of a barber journey on TikTok that went viral. And then we got like an ABC coverage on that. So things just start snowballing.
Stories I hear from you, Wilson, people fighting for Chinatown and in several different Asian communities where they're able to keep their mood elevator high. They're able to see the glass half full and take action and bring, whether it's love. I mean, it could sound corny, but during this time, we do need a lot of that.
Right.
And bringing fun, because again, during this time, we could use a lot of that. Where everyone's scared and afraid, you're bringing a social aspect back to it and showing that we're still here,
right,
and we care, and we're not going anywhere, and that this will pass. And you're not saying that verbally, but you're saying that through your actions, and people can stand behind that. And having that energy, with these people that I've just been observing and speaking to, that they're able to find success and actually thrive during COVID, which is mind-blowing.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of that is personality, right? You gotta always find you gotta find a way to give yourself hope. You know what I mean? And I think that,
how do you do that though? It's really easy to say,
it's hard,
extremely challenging to do.
Yes. I think I had a lot of anxiety during COVID.
Yeah.
I think there was I think that, fortunately enough, I self-diagnosed myself when I saw this Instagram post. I think I have like really good high functioning anxiety when I do have it. So like I'm able to function under it. So like
so you don't collapse.
Yeah.
You don't, because a lot of people high anxiety, what they'll do is they'll shut down and just build walls all around them.
Yeah. I mean, like
avoidance.
I think it was the first time I ever experienced like an anxiety episode, you know, of thinking a lot and thinking very deeply, thinking about, because like for me, I'm a very big chess player, you know. I like to see different outcomes. I like to play that out in my head, and I like to see what could be the results, and I like to make a decision based on that. And because of COVID, dude, like my moves were stuck, you know, like it wasn't moves that I can control anymore. It was like the government said we had to shut down, and where was the light at the end of the tunnel? They didn't say. So it's like there was no planning for reopening because I didn't know when reopening was.
So you didn't see the outcome.
Yeah. So it's like
it was all total doom and gloom.
Yeah. So like, I mean, let's talk about that.
So how did you find hope, right? That's crazy.
I mean, let's talk about that, because I feel like not a lot of the stories that I've ever listened to talk about like the downside of all this, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because
let's dive in.
I think a lot of people do see the bright side, and I think it's tough because when you're in that element, it's really hard to crawl out. And you know what, COVID, I learned a really big lesson from COVID, even I myself as a chess player, was you got to live day by day sometimes. You can't live too far in the future. You can't live too far in the past. You have to learn how to take it one day at a time when you encounter a challenge like that.
Be present.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the moves are not up to you anymore. You know, the control is not in your hand, and the only way you can place that control back into your own hands is if you live in the present. And so like presently, I thought about it as, okay, number one, I don't know when we're going to reopen. Number two, yes, we're losing a ton of money right now. We're getting drained. Will we have to close? Maybe. Let's see how long we can last. Then I gave myself a time period for that runway. If we're not reopening by 6 months, it's time to turn down the lease. It's time to fold. You know what I mean? I made.
Wow, that's a tough conversation.
Yeah. I made it very, very realistic for myself. Like, if the upside is not gonna return, we would have to pull the trigger to close it. I also looked at the situation and said, hey, what can I do, right? How can I keep the people together? How can I keep my team together? What can I do to continue to help people feel good at this time? And so, fortunately enough, my team is, honestly, like, the team, like I am and we are where we are because of the whole team. And every single day we would hop on Zoom meetings together and just have like conversations, talk about what's going on. And every day we connected throughout the whole quarantine. I think we had like maybe Sunday and Saturdays we didn't meet, but like some days if guys wanted to meet, we would hop on anyways. And like we would just talk, and no matter what, as busy as everybody was busy, whether it's playing video games or whatever
Right.
it is. We carved out a little bit of time for each other.
That's beautiful.
And then we were just trying to help each other stay focused. Like, oh, let's improve on speaking skills. Let's do writing exercises. And I saw
And this is a collective of barbers having this discussion.
yes, and it's outside of the nature of barbering for barbers to do that. But I made that a goal for them because I wanted them to have something to focus on. Because if your mind was to run wild like mine and like go in all these directions, it's like it's so hard.
Yeah.
So I wanted them to stay focused on something where they can work on something to improve themselves during this time. Because we're not working right now, you know, and it's so easy to kind of get lost in the sauce when you're not doing anything. So I wanted to give them a little bit of like hope, like I was talking about, you know. And so I was like, I would come in with pep talk. We would listen to a TED talk together and share our feedback on what we thought about it. We listened to this one episode about like, you know, what types of people to invest in and how we can become those type of people.
I saw that one.
Yeah, on the TED talk, right? Yeah. And like it talks about how, like, what type of characteristics would you look for, you know? Would it be someone that runs straight, you know, and straight into a brick wall, or someone that knows how to pivot out of it? We watched this marshmallow eating video where it's like, which type of, like, you know how they put the marshmallow in front of the kid and then they see which type of kid eats it and which type of kid would grow up into like a leader, and then like based on like that one decision.
Right. What is it? If you give you one now,
Yeah.
I'll give
Give
you
the
one
option,
marshmallow now,
yeah.
or I'll give you two later.
Yeah.
Right.
I give you, yeah.
And then you see
And
the
then
kids
one-
start
the kid
thinking,
that
and
thinks
they're
long term.
Yeah.
Those are the kids that usually turn out to be more successful in life.
Yes.
Right.
And then we were just doing stuff like that, just watching videos and having discussions. And at that time, it was very trivial. Like I would be like, "Yo, we'll do this," and then we can edit the videos, and then we can drop them as like, you know, like little pieces of content. We never ended up doing it, but the whole idea was to get them motivated and have hope. And I think that's very, very big. Living at the, like, you know, living presently, I realized at the time the only thing that I could do to give myself hope was to work on myself. So I learned how to cook everything I wanted to eat. You know, fried chicken.
Oh man.
Yeah. like the Japanese pancake. You know.
Yes, the fluffy joints.
Yeah.
I love those. Yeah.
And then like it was just like learning how to cook for yourself, learning how to do things for yourself, learning how to find happiness when everything was closed. I don't normally watch a lot of TV, but like I hopped on a couple of series, and like I enjoyed watching a Netflix series for once.
We hear a lot of uplifting stories, and we touched on that in our previous podcast. But there's sides that aren't sexy, and
Right.
not enough people kind of talk about it and address it, and then figure out how to move beyond that.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I want people to understand, right? Because I think a lot of people take that leap to say that they want to be a businessman, they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to be somebody who's disruptive in the space. And I think I want people to recognize that it's a shit ton of hard work, and the fruits of the labor is not the money. So if you're going into any of these projects or ambitions with the idea that there's going to be a lot of money, there's going to be the big bag at the end of the day, you're not going to make it too far. You know what I mean? Because you're constantly looking at the wrong thing. I think that what you have to go into, and you have to have this mindset ready when you're about to go into a business, is that this is going to be a great learning journey. You know, that you're going to grow out of it professionally and personally. You're going to reflect every day, and you're going to realize how far you've come from 1 year ago. And every single one of my dudes in the space that are on my team, they're here for the big bag at the end of the day. Yeah, that's true. But number one, the priority is that you're here to grow.
Yeah.
And that's actually the biggest distinction between anybody that I take onto my team that I work with.
I always say be careful of the people giving advice and preaching and telling you stuff if they haven't done it.
Yeah.
If they haven't made those sacrifices.
Yeah, and people still think it's very surprising that I've walked away from money before. I think that a lot of people that I speak to, even very successful business people, ask me why don't I scale it so that's running in the background? Why don't I do that? But it's a piece of mind that you have to provide for that.
Yeah. I find it more surprising that you walked away from all the time invested in studying to become a CPA. I mean, you went all in and you achieved the highest status you could possibly do.
Yeah.
And you were able to just walk away from that. To me, it's more than walking away from a 6-figure salary.
Yes.
Because I personally, because I look at time way more valuable than any currency.
And to respond to that, I would say, see, time invested, right, is only worth it if you're happy with the outcome of it. You know what I mean? And I think that if you continuously blindly invest your time because you've been so far and so knee deep into something, to want to pull yourself out of it, it's like, I feel like if you're so concerned with the time invested, you're not able to unlock something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that
sure.
like as much, and like I'm pretty knee deep right now where I am is with 12 Pel, right? And I'm not gonna lie, like brand new and exciting opportunities fall into the lap every single day now.
Every day is brand new.
Every day is brand new.
When you're in that corporate culture, or I guess, and not every accounting or someone in a corporate culture experience these caps.
Right.
But a lot of them do. Not everyone, but I would say most. Everything where I could not relate more, and I know a lot of people listening that are in that culture. Probably could not relate more. I'm seeing the same faces during happy hour. I've gone as far as I can during my career.
Right.
It's the same shit, different toilet, right? So it's like enough is enough. But some people just don't have that, I guess, courage to break out of that bubble. And they say they just kind of accept and say, you know what, it is what it is. What else am I going to do? Especially I've already invested all this time. And then they're also thinking maybe, I don't want to let my parents down if I did something. What would they think? Or my friends. And for you to just have that conviction and awareness and courage to break out that bubble is extremely rare.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it's not rare to have that idea. It's rare to have the action behind that idea and to continue doing it.
Yeah.
And then come back and where you made it and come back and share that story with everyone.
I think that
to say it's okay. It's okay to go over there.
Yeah,
we'll be all right.
The words for that is empowered decisions. I think not a lot of people are able to make empowered decisions. I think that comes from confidence. That comes from failing. That comes from realizing the consequences of your decisions and then improving on it. So I think that like at the end of the day, I think that the main question that somebody should always ask themselves is, what's the worst that could happen? And then I think that once you realize what your complete downside is, then you realize, can I live with that? And I think that sometimes, and I know it's super cliche and a lot of people say this, but like the biggest risk is not taking that risk at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, I always look at that and like, I'm super analytical, right? I love the data. I love the numbers. I love looking at all the facts. So like, do that. You know what I mean? Like lay everything out on the table, all your concerns. I got a 9 to 5. I'm comfortable with that. I love it. That's a pro. I get off work and I can watch TV and do whatever I want. I love that. That's a pro. Some people, you know what? Like at the end of the day, I think it's completely fine to be in love with your 9 to 5. There's certain personalities that love that.
Absolutely.
But if you recognize it, own it, And if you are dreaming about maybe a side hustle or something else, you can still dream about it, but own the fact that you love the 9 to 5 lifestyle. Yeah. And that's cool.
Yeah, but I would say most people can't stand it. That's
I mean, they could if they start to complain about it, they have to do something about it, right?
But most people just complain about it.
Yeah.
And then they look for another job within the same industry just to deal with it again. But it's a vicious cycle, with a different company.
I think when it comes to complaining, I think it's healthy, right? I think that complaining is the. And I think that when people complain about it, it may not necessarily mean that they want it, but it's just a way of someone dealing with it's a mental wellness thing, It's like you let it out.
Well, you don't bottle it up.
Yeah, but I also think it can be self-defeating if you complain and never do anything and you're all keep complaining about the same things and never do anything to change your reality.
Right.
You're gonna. I think that could be damaging to your mental health at the same time and everyone else around you, because it's the people that's close to you. They're going to get sick and tired of you, like I'll just use something like if you smoke and you're always complaining about your cough. I'm like, dude,
word.
So it's like that.
I think as long as you understand the consequences of your action, and like you also understand if your complaints are merely just on the surface level or if it means something deeper.
Right.
So I think you got to be the one to dig deep. So like if people come to me and they say, oh, I want to leave my job. I'm thinking about this and that. And 3 years later, they're still at the same job and they're still doing that. Yo, let's be real. Did you really hate it that much? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's obviously a level of comfort that you appreciate about your job, which is why you're there. And some people never want to leave that comfort, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that like whenever anybody asks me for advice, like, oh, what should I do? I have this opportunity, or should I quit my job? Should I leave? Instinctively, because I have my experience in my past, I would always encourage them to try something new and say, yeah, what do you got to lose? But before I even suggest that, I always say, go back and figure out, is this actually what you really want?
Words of wisdom, very strong words of
Wise.
wisdom.
Wise at 30 too. Damn.
At 30, yeah. I mean,
I
love
wish
it.
I wish I was this wise.
And that's
at
what we
30.
love about the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, it's never the same, and we get to meet a lot of brilliant minds. You know that
Yeah.
we never knew would have existed, and the deep conversations.
You know what's really cool? I think you guys gotta have some of my kids on this, and
Yeah.
I think that you know how you saying
Cool.
wise at 30. It's really interesting because I talked to Wilson Tang about this too, and Wilson's like 40, right? So like we're like a decade apart, and then me and my kids are a decade apart, and then you know in a couple generations another decade apart. But
Your kids referencing the guys that work at
the
12
shop.
Pal. At the
oh no,
shop,
oh no,
right?
sorry, I mean kids that I mentor.
Oh, you mentoring
Oh,
kids,
separately
okay.
from the
Yeah.
barbershop. This
Yeah.
is oh wow.
Okay.
So I have a set of kids that I mentor separately. Interesting how they all came to be, and I guess like so to say, you know, fell under my radar. But this wasn't necessarily something I was actively looking for. It's just that how I found through the shop, and so I have a set of kids that I mentor, and like right now they're working on their own startups.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about like 19, 20-year-old kids, and
that
one of
sounds beautiful.
One of them is absolutely killing it in the craziest ways. So I think that it'd be really cool to see that generational wisdom being passed down, because it's like the wisdom that you guys have that passed down to us,
Yeah.
the wisdom that we have that passed down to somebody else, and it all starts with
That's
that.
what it's about.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
And
man.
they get faster and smarter.
Oh,
I
they're
think-
so quick on the social media.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
it's
insane.
amazing.
yeah.
I feel so old when I watch them work.
I feel like my
crazy.
parents. Like,
I feel like when they're next to me and they see me on the phone, I'm a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because they're like, "Damn, Will, you're so slow with it."
Bro.
They're just. When I watch, I'm like, I didn't even want my phone could move that fast.
yeah.
Dude, I feel like an artifact. It's like, I was like, the other day we were like listing out like birthdays for like the ski lift pass. Like we're taking like a team trip, and then like everyone was writing their birthdays. I was like, oh my god. I was like, yo, can I just text you my birthday separately? I was like, yo, everyone's like, yo, I got like 96 2000s.
Oh.
I was like, whoa, 2000s.
2000s.
Yeah, that's like, yo, I was like, crazy. I was like, oh wow.
But just seeing the growth in the community and giving back, that's incredible. I think just speaking to you in this brief moment, you know, I think you're well suited for that, and I think those kids chose a good mentor.
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna lie. I was never. I don't think that I was always well suited for this role. I think I grew into it. I think that a lot of things come out of when you're doing something that you care and you're passionate about. So yeah, maybe just hopefully that inspires someone else to maybe find.
And to answer your question,
Yeah.
like your statement before, we'd love to have, you know, one of your kids on if you feel like, you know,
Yeah.
they have a lot of value to bring.
Oh,
and
I think-
share. I'd love to record that and share it with the world.
Yeah.
I think what's cool is that you'll see their energy and you see the way that they think, because like I remember when it was times where I would sit down with them and have a conversation and they would do mostly listening. And that was like a year and a half ago. And now we sit down when you have a conversation and they're pumping out value. And they're like, yo, you could also do this. And then that would capture the market.
See, that's
And then-
great to have a community of friends like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's like you guys could shoot the shit, you know, talk about politics and what's going on in the news,
Right.
reality shows, but you guys can add value during that conversations at times too, where you are helping each other accelerate or win at life.
Yes.
And you probably never thought as a mentor that you would actually get advice from your mentees.
No, I knew it. I knew one day that they were going to kick my ass.
Where the student becomes
Yeah.
the
Yes,
teacher.
always.
That's the goal.
You're
It always
Jedi
is.
Master.
That's the goal.
Yeah. I think it was always my goal to start that they were going to be better than me. And I always told them that too. I always told them like, hey, you guys are learning from me when you're 19, 20, but by the time you're 25, you're going to beat my ass. You know, you're going to be doing something crazier than me. And you know what's crazy is that I kind of like manifested that, but that happened a much earlier than we expected. Like it's only been a year and a half in, 2 years in for some of these kids, and they're already running startups that are going to be super disruptive.
Yeah.
And I already see that, and I look at that and I go, holy crap, they're about to make milestones before they even like finish college.
That's incredible.
And I didn't even think about
incredible.
doing something outside the box.
And how many kids that have that in them, but we're taught that they don't, so go to college and figure it out.
Yeah.
That's the part, I think that's why it's so important to find a mentor and just finding your building blocks, the right people around you, the right friends that talk about the right things. I think that's crucial.
I think us in the Asian community, we really need that. I think that
I totally agree. Yeah.
I think that we didn't have that.
You nailed it.
Yeah. Like I think that it's a big gap in where we are as Asian Americans, because our parents don't know how to, not to say don't know, but then
It's just different.
Yeah, it's just different. And then they don't know what it's like to mentor us in this culture. You know what I mean? Like for a professional interview, for this and that.
Right.
I think that's where we bring real value at 12 Pel, because it's like I got all these kids from the barbershop. It's like all these kids, they come in here not knowing, and then they discover value, and then they're hooked.
So these kids came in for a haircut and then left with a mentor. That's how it was.
There you go.
In a cheesy way, yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that's not cheesy.
You know what?
Yeah.
If I cut my hair, if I cut off this long,
Don't do it.
You know what? I don't want you to regret it. So I want you to go home and reflect on the pros and the
I'm
cons.
not doing it.
Write down the pros and cons, on paper, and then show it to Carve. That's your homework assignment.
We'll talk about
And
it.
then we'll talk about it. I want to really make sure that's what you want. You know what I mean?
It's only hair; it'll grow back. Well, as long as I, can. But when I'm ready to get it, I'm gonna give you a ring, and let's see what because I'm almost embarrassed when I was telling him I've never been to your shop. But after this podcast, I'm going to your shop. I know you got an event there. Carve, thank you for coming through.
No, you have a lot on your shoulders. The community, your shop. It's really inspiring that what you're doing for the community as well. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to do this again whenever you guys want.
Yeah, for sure. It was fun.
A ton of stories, and maybe not even myself. Maybe you could get the perspective from my guys.
Yeah. You're right down the block.
Yeah.
So we're here one day.
Come by anytime.
Let's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day regulars. You know what I mean? We've always thought about it. I think that it's just that it's tough because you got buzzers going on in the shop all the time. But we thought about even getting the perspectives of all the people in our chair, because we're talking about we get the perspectives from the young 16-year-old kid all the way through to the 50-something-year-old professional, who's had his neck in the woods in every single way possible, from professional to entrepreneurial. So I think there's a lot of value being generated out of the shop. We're now actually, for the next plans moving forward, we're actually generating a lot of future content where we can start to deliver this value online. So we're working on videos, whether it's styling videos or a little bit of lifestyle, funny videos. Right. But the idea is connecting with more people now.
You guys got to be there physically to check it out. I'm going to do that right now. 12 Pell Street, New York City, Chinatown, represent.
Yo,
We're lucky, boys.
we out.